Hi and welcome to my channel. In today's video we're going to talk about how you can make sure that you're choosing the right houseplants for your space. Whether you have a few houseplants at the moment but you feel like you're failing miserably, whether you've bought a new space and you're looking to greenify that space, or whether you just would like to have a few plants but you don't really know which ones to choose and you don't really know where to start, this is the video for you. Before I get into the video, hi, my name's Alexis and this is Wild Houseplants. I'm a houseplant enthusiast and I also work as a houseplant technician, which basically means when I'm not looking after my own plants, I'm looking after other people's. If you don't follow me over on Instagram or TikTok, you can find me there at Wild Houseplants. And if you do enjoy this video today, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button below. Give this video a thumbs up because it really does help out my channel. Okay, so before we talk about what plants are going to work in your space, I want you to ask yourself two questions. And the first question is, how much time do you have to dedicate to plant care? So what I'm asking you is, are you somebody that works out of the house 5 days a week? You like to go away on holiday? Do you have a busy social life or a busy family life? Or maybe you're looking after like an elderly relative or something. How much time do you have? If you don't have very much time, I'm going to suggest some different plants for you than someone that has maybe more of a homebody, somebody who likes to spend a lot of time at home. Maybe you're looking to start a new hobby, and then I'm going to select some different plants for you to try. So ask yourself, am I a low maintenance, medium maintenance, or high maintenance plant parent? Because this hobby does take up a lot of time. I would say that I spend roughly on average about 2 to 6 hours a week with my plants, and obviously on a busy week I might literally just be watering them, and that might take me just like an hour or something like that. But another week I might be repotting a load of houseplants, so that's a good couple of hours work there. And then if I get maybe a pest outbreak or something like that, I've got to shower my entire collection and treat them, and that's going to be several hours of work there. So you just need to ask yourself, how much time are you looking to spend looking after your plants? Because there are options for everybody. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, what natural light do I have in my home? So you want to look at the rooms that you're looking to add plants to and just see how much light you have. And also you can get out your compass app on your phone and just have an understanding of what aspects you've got. Because if you've got floor to ceiling south-facing windows, again, I'm going to suggest different plants for you than if you maybe have a north-facing kitchen with just a very small window. And I think it's really important when we're adding plants to our space, get your head out of the mindset of thinking about, I want to find a plant for my bathroom, I want to find a plant for my kitchen. The room doesn't really matter. It's much more important to think about the light that room offers rather than the room itself. Yes, your bathroom is going to be slightly more humid whilst you're having a shower in the morning and the evening, but the rest of the day that spike is going to come down again and it's going to kind of plateau. So the fact that it's a bathroom doesn't really matter that much overall. It's much more important about the light within that bathroom. So if you have a north-facing bathroom, I'm going to suggest different plants to you than if you had a south-facing bathroom. So get your head out of that kind of mind frame of the room and think more about the light that that room is offering. If you don't have a lot of natural light in your home, all is not lost, because there are some fantastic grow lights on the market. And I will talk about grow lights at the end of this video. I'll put a timestamp here on the screen, so if you do want to find out about grow lights, you can just cut straight to that or continue watching through. I'm going to talk about some different plants now that I think are going to be suitable for different lifestyles and different light options in your home, and then you can watch the grow light bit at the end of this video. Okay, let's start by talking about some low maintenance houseplant options. So these are the options for you if you have a busy lifestyle, you're out of the house quite a lot, but you just want to add a few plants and get that sort of green feeling a little bit, but you don't want to be spending all your time with them, maybe go away on holiday quite a lot. Maybe your light levels in your house aren't amazing, because these plants I'm going to show you right now are tolerant of multiple different light levels, and especially in that sort of medium to lower light bracket. So yeah, let's show you these plants. Okay, so the first one on the list is Epipremnum, or commonly called pothos. This is the jade pothos. I have about 10 of these dotted around my house. I've got a trailing one coming down my fridge over there, and I've got several all over the place. So many of them, because not only are they ridiculously hardy, they can give you that sort of lovely cascading vibes going down a shelf, or for example, my side of my fridge. And they are extremely tolerant to both overwatering and underwatering. Like, obviously you don't want to be doing that too frequently, but what I mean by that is if they do go a little bit thirsty, maybe you've gone away on holiday and you come back, give it a drink, and they normally just buck up their ideas. I have these in lower light areas of my house, and they are really tolerant of that. They'll just grow a little bit slower, that's all. They actually really don't like to be blasted with light. If you put one of these in a south-facing window, you would probably notice that the leaves would start to bleach, and they just wouldn't look very happy or healthy. They much prefer that medium light, and as I say, they will also tolerate lower light as well. I have a whole shelf of Epipremnum trailing down the back wall of my north-facing living room. I'll pop in a picture, and they're all happy there. They do grow a lot slower there. Would I like them to have a little bit more light? Yes. But do they tolerate having less light? Yes. The only thing that you need to make sure that you're doing if you're having them in a lower light area is that you want to make sure that you are reducing your watering. So I probably water those plants once every 2 weeks. If I was to water them more frequently than that, then they might start to show signs of being a little bit unhappy. So you just want to check the soil before you water them if you're having them in a lower light spot. So this is the kind of classic, this is a jade green Epipremnum, but they come in lots of wonderful different varieties, and I'll show you a few just so that you can add a little bit more excitement to your Epipremnum collection. This one here is the Epipremnum Enjoy, slightly smaller leaves, and you've obviously got this sort of creamy variegation. Again, these plants are fantastic because they are so easy to propagate. Yeah, if you're thinking, oh, I just need a little bit more colour, I'm looking for a little bit of variety, you can buy lots of different Epipremnum in all the different varieties, and that will give you a really fantastic array of different plants, but actually all from the same genus, which are all easy to care for. But yeah, Epipremnum Enjoy. This one is the Marble Queen. It's one of my favourites. It does have some non-variegated bits in my one, but then you've got some bits of much higher variegation. With the variegated ones, they would prefer a little bit more light, and you will get more of that variegation if you've got them in medium light. And if you have them in lower light, like I have this one in quite low light, you may notice some of the variegation is not so vibrant as it would be if it was in higher light. But again, a really fantastic option, giving you those lovely cascading vibes. And yeah, another one for you. This is the Mandula Pothos. It's definitely one of the favourites probably in the houseplant community. This one I'm actually growing on this little trellis here. It's actually outgrowing the trellis a little bit. I need to pin it back down. But there are options for just adding like a simple metal trellis just to make them look a little bit more interesting. You can also grow them up a moss pole, but I think that is more in your high maintenance plant parent bracket. So I'll show you that one towards the end. But for now, there are some things that you can do just by adding a trellis just to make it look a little bit more interesting. And as you can see, there are just so many varieties within that Epipremnum genus, and lots of different interests. So you can have the same genus in multiple different varieties and add lots of nice interest and dimension to your space. Next up, in much the same vein as the Epipremnum, this is Scindapsus, often called satin pothos, but it's not actually in the same genus. This one's actually quite dusty and needs a shower. I have two of these, and they both live in what I would call lower light areas. So they actually don't see the sky, and they're actually quite far from a window, and they will tolerate that. The main thing is, again, you just need to reduce the watering if you're going to have them in a lower light spot of your home, and you need to know that they're going to grow slower. But if you're looking to not do too much in terms of plant maintenance, plants that actually don't grow that fast are actually probably better for you, because obviously the faster your plants grow, the quicker they're going to need to be repotted and so forth. So yeah, Scindapsus is a really good genus for that lower light, especially this one, Scindapsus pictus. So yeah, really good option. Again, trailing, again, you can get them to climb up a pole as well if you want to, but again, I consider that to be more higher maintenance plant parents. So for now, this one just sitting on a shelf will look really, really lovely. Next up for low maintenance or beginner plant parents is these two. These are Agleonema. I really like the silvery green ones like these two, but they do come in lots of different colours. You can get pinks and reds if you're looking for something a little bit brighter. And these plants will tolerate that medium and lower light option as well. These two sit on the mantelpiece in my north facing living room, quite far back from the window actually. And there are a few grow lights in that room, but none of them directly facing on these two. So, and they're tolerating that. Again, they're going to grow slower, so just be aware of that. They're not going to grow super fast if you've got them in a lower light spot, but they will tolerate it. And of course, as I've always been saying, that you need to make sure that you're testing the soil and make sure they're ready for a drink. If you water them too frequently and they're in lower light, you are going to risk the option of root rot. I also find them to be pretty pest tolerant as well. Of course, yes, they can get pests, but they are pretty tolerant, and I wouldn't say that they are plants that like always come with pests or always attract pests. Next up on the list is the snake plant, and yes, I'm probably not surprised that it's on the list, and maybe it's a bit more on the kind of boring side for some of you, but there are some varieties that are a little bit more exciting than that kind of standard one that you see. This one is the Sansevieria Moonlight, and again, it has these silvery green leaves that I absolutely love. I actually, although I'm talking about it being an easy care plant, I actually had to restart this plant recently, but that was because I had it in my south-facing window and I just let it get way, way too dry. But these plants don't need to be in a south-facing window. They will absolutely tolerate that, again, that medium and lower light. What you just, again, need to make sure that you're not over-watering, so always check the soil. These plants want to go completely bone dry between waterings, but don't let it go dry for too long, because then the roots will start to basically die, and then when you water it, it will get root rot. So just make sure that you're not leaving it for really long periods of time when it's dry, but you can absolutely go away on holiday and leave this plant for 3 weeks and it will be absolutely fine. When it comes to Sansevieria or snake plants, there are also really fun ones like this. You know, they don't all have to have the same structure. There are some that are plaited. There are all sorts of different varieties of Sansevieria. It is a really varied genus and lots of different colours and textures. So yeah, you can absolutely fill your house with these really low maintenance plants. The next plant for your lower maintenance lifestyle is Hoya. This is a Hoya carnosa Crimson Princess, but obviously any of the Hoya, especially the carnosa, the really kind of waxy leaves ones, they are very, very tolerant of basically being underwatered. They don't require a huge amount of water. They do have these sort of semi-succulent type leaves, so they hold a lot of water within the plant, so they can go for periods of time with quite dry soil. So again, if you're someone that goes away a lot or you don't want to be watering all the time, you can absolutely get away with watering these once the soil is completely dry, so maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously, the more light you're providing, the quicker they're going to grow, the more kind of sun stressing you're going to get on the leaves, and also the more chance you are of getting these plants to bloom. Hoyas do bloom. I literally just had this one bloom for me just a few weeks ago. I'll pop a little picture of the flower on the screen because it was stunning. But this plant would only really flower because I have it in my south-facing window. I would say that they prefer higher light, but they will absolutely tolerate that medium and lower light. And if you're looking for a plant, again, just to kind of fill the space but not really demand too much of you, then Hoya is a great one for that. I do have this one trailing around this trellis here, because Hoyas do like to trail around a trellis, but you can also have them trailing down and they'll also look really lovely on a shelf or something like that as well. I also have this, the Hoya linearis. I would say this is edging maybe slightly more into that medium maintenance plant parent, just because this one does require more water than its friend, the carnosa, that I showed you before, just because it's got less the leaves aren't so waxy, the stems are much thinner, therefore it uses the water quicker. It can't store the water in its leaves quite so much as the waxy carnosa can. So I'd say this is maybe edging towards that medium, but again, a really nice texture, looks fantastic trailing down a shelf. I have mine hanging in my skylight here. And again, as long as you're keeping an eye on pests with this one, sometimes they can be prone to mealybugs, but I haven't had that experience personally. And yeah, I think it's just a really, really stunning one. But like I said, maybe slightly edging into that medium bracket with this one here. Up next in our, it's really difficult to get it in the screen. It's grown so much this summer, but this is my Euphorbia. And there's lots of different types of Euphorbia. I'll put the name of this one on the screen. But this one is also commonly called the African milk tree, and it's super, super easy. I do have mine in a south-facing window and it does get a lot of light, therefore it's grown very quickly, but they can absolutely tolerate lower light. My mum has one of these as well, and she has it in what I would call probably medium light, and she's definitely even grown it in lower light, and it will be absolutely fine. Again, you've just got to watch the lower watering and also that it's not going to grow as fast. So mine is bigger than hers because I have been providing more light for it. But if you're looking to just have one as an easy care, like kind of funky cactus vibe for your home, then Euphorbias are really fantastic. I've never had a problem with any of these rotting on me, and I've got quite a few clients that have these plants as well in various different light levels. And as I say, if you want lots of growth, then you're going to want to put it in higher light, but it will absolutely tolerate that lower and medium light levels as well. My last option today for you low maintenance houseplant people is this. This is the Ficus robusta, and this is the green variety. So there are a few different varieties, and I do also have the Taniki, which is variegated, but I would consider that to be more in the medium bracket. So I will talk about that one then. But this one is the green variety, and this one will tolerate, again, a multitude of different light levels. These Ficus, as the genus is the Ficus, it's the same genus as like the fiddle-leaf fig. They are absolutely plants that you would see growing outside in warmer parts of the world. I saw a massive, huge tree in Australia of this. So they are highlight plants, but they will tolerate that medium and lower light. What will happen? You'll get smaller leaves. The leaves won't be as big, and you may get slower growth. So you might get bigger internodal spacing. That's bigger spacing in between each leaves. And I have definitely had periods of time when I've had this plant in lower light and the space between the leaves has got bigger. Right now, I'm giving it quite high light, so the internodal spacing is quite small and the leaves are getting quite nice and big. But yeah, as I said, you are going to get smaller leaves and less leaves, slower growth, but it will absolutely tolerate it. And again, this one is not particularly high requirement for watering. So you could absolutely go away and leave this plant for 2 weeks, water it before you go, and it would be absolutely fine. So yeah, this one is the last one I'm going to have in the low maintenance section. Okay, so now we're going to talk about that medium plant parent bracket. So these are people that you are not wanting to spend all your time with your plants, but you are maybe looking to add a few more plants to your space and you want to dedicate a little bit of time to it, then these are the plants for you. So we're going to start off with a classic. It is the Monstera deliciosa. Mine is so big that I can't really bring it out from this section back here, but it is working on a lovely new leaf at the moment, which is another reason why I don't really want to move it, because I don't want to damage that new leaf. And many people would consider these to be probably easy care plants, but the only reason why I would say I've got it in this medium bracket is because I do find them to be particularly thrown to a pest called thrips. So if you kind of have one of these, I do think that you need to be vigilant about that, because I do find them to be particularly prone to thrips. So you may need to have a little bit of involvement of like cleaning your leaves regularly, showering the plant down and potentially treating it. So that's why I've got it in the medium bracket, but it is a really easy grower. It will tolerate different light levels. They do probably want, I would say, medium to bright light to get the fenestrations, the leaves to size up. But if you have it in a lower light area of your home, it will still look really, really nice. It will just, maybe the leaves will be smaller, you might have less fenestrations. And again, you always want to be thinking about reducing watering if you're not offering it a huge amount of light. If you are offering it more light, again, you probably don't want it to be having direct sun all throughout the day because the leaves will start to bleach, but they will absolutely love having a little bit of morning sun or afternoon sun. And I'm talking about direct sun here. Do not be afraid of direct light in the morning or the afternoon. You just kind of want to be avoiding it right in the middle of the day, especially in the summer, because your plants will start to bleach or potentially burn. But a little bit of morning sun or afternoon sun, direct light on your leaves will not do it any harm at all. And in fact, it will actually really benefit the plant and it will love it, quite frankly. So yeah, the first one on my medium list is the Monstera deliciosa. I grew her from a plant that was just sort of this big. So they do get big. You do need to have a good space for them because they do grow pretty wild pretty quickly. So yeah, that's one thing to consider as well. Gosh, I watered all my plants yesterday, so they're all feeling very, very heavy. But just like I showed you in the previous section, I showed you the Ficus robusta. This is the Taniki, so it's the same family. It's also a ficus, but this is the Taniki, so you've got the variegation on the leaves here. And the only reason why I've got this more in the medium section is because any plant that has variegation is going to require slightly higher light than those plants without variegation, because of course it's the green part of the leaf that photosynthesizes, and the white part, the creamy parts of the leaves, have no chlorophyll, so they won't be able to photosynthesize. So the more white there is on your plant, the more light it needs so that it can actually, the green parts can photosynthesize and the plant can continue to grow. I do give this plant a lot of light. It sits in my south-facing window, but again, it will absolutely tolerate medium light, but I probably wouldn't recommend lower light for this plant. The only thing you also have to watch out for with these, and it's the same with the one I showed you before, is they can be prone to spider mites. So if you look on the underside of the leaves and you notice any little white spots, that's probably spider mites. And just to make sure that you're showering the leaves regularly or wiping them down with a microfiber cloth just to keep on top of that. But yeah, next one in this medium section is the Ficus Taniki. The next one on the medium list is this. This is the Pilea peperomoides, commonly called the Chinese money plant. And this is a really popular house plant just because it's so lovely with these succulent style round leaves, and it's a real fun pop of just texture, quite frankly, and that makes it a really popular plant. But I would have it in the medium category because it does require more specialist watering. The roots on this plant are very, very thin and fine, and therefore they can suffer with overwatering. So my tip is always to feel the leaves. If they feel like firm, like this one does now because I watered it just yesterday, do not water it. If they feel slightly more floppy, then give it a good water, and that is my general rule. Also, they do quite enjoy bottom watering as well, so just place it in a bowl of water and just see how much water it wants to take up before putting it back in its spot. I do find that to be better with these plants, and that's why I put it in the medium section. In terms of light levels, again, much prefer medium light to lower light, but if you do put it in lower light, you're going to notice the leaves are going to be a lot smaller, but they also don't want to be blasted with light either because they will bleach. So again, yeah, that medium light. So what I mean by medium light is either a good sort of metre back from a south-facing window or near an east or a west window. If it's in a north-facing window, you want it to be right up in that window. You want it to be getting that morning sun that's coming from that north-facing window. And yeah, you want it to maximise that north-facing window. But other than that, it can be sort of quite close to an east or a west, or a good metre or so back from a south-facing window. Again, these can tolerate some direct sun in the morning and the evening, but you don't want it to get a load of sun in the middle of the day because they will start to look yellow and bleached. If you do find that you're getting black sort of markings or spots on your leaves with this one, that is normally caused by overwatering. So just check your roots and make sure that you're only watering when the leaves feel floppy, not when they feel quite firm like this one does. Like if I was to fold it in half, I know it would snap because there's that much water held in the leaves. I do have a dedicated care video on this plant and I will link that down below. Also, I would include in that medium section would be Peperomia. Now, the reason why I don't think Peperomia are for beginners or for low maintenance plant parents is, again, similar to the Pilea, and many people think these two are the same plant, but they are absolutely not. This genus Peperomia has lots of different types of plants. This one just happens to look a little bit similar to the Pilea, but the Peperomia also, like the Pilea, have a very fine root system and therefore can be overwatered quite easily. So again, you want to do the same thing and check the leaves feel a little bit floppy before you water them. But there are so many fantastic Peperomia in the Peperomia genus, so I would highly recommend. But again, yes, you want to be maybe just cautious about your watering. They also don't like to dry out, so if you're going to be going away and leaving your plants for long periods of time, I don't recommend the Peperomia for that reason. But yeah, if you're generally going to be around and maybe only going on holiday for a week or so, these will be absolutely fine. And again, just make sure you're checking those leaves before you water. Next up is Philodendron. This is the Philodendron Prince of Orange, but the Philodendron genus is absolutely vast and there are so many wonderful philodendrons to choose from. They're generally really easy care. I would say they're a medium light plant. They don't want to be blasted with light, but they also don't want to be sat in the dark. So I would say, yeah, medium light for these guys. And there is just so many different varieties of philodendron and they are generally really easy to look after. And they're pretty easy going with their watering requirements as well. So I would say, yeah, absolutely choose a philodendron in that medium section. And once you get into philodendron, there is just so many to choose from. So if you do like the genus, you've got a lot of choice. I would say with philodendron to avoid the velvet philodendrons in that medium section. I would say they're absolutely more of a high maintenance plant parent, and I will be showing one later on, but you want to be staying away from the velvet ones if you're looking to have a little bit of an easier life with your plants. Next up we have, well, this is the Rhipsalis, but generally jungle cactus in general. So jungle cactus are going to require more watering than desert cactus, but they are still pretty easygoing in my experience. They again probably want to be going more on the medium to bright light scenario. If you put them in lower light, they don't really enjoy that too much, but again, too much sun and they will start to bleach. So again, more of that medium light. I've actually recently just purchased this one, but I also do have Lepismium bolivianum, which I'll insert a clip of. And again, I do put mine in that kind of more that medium to bright spot and they absolutely love it. Again, with these guys, I would say probably bottom watering is best because again, they do have quite fine root systems. And so you don't want to be drowning them and you don't want to be sat in too much wet soil for any period of time. So yeah, but I do think these are really lovely. I just wouldn't suggest them for that lower maintenance houseplant parent because I do think they require just a little bit more of specialist watering. Next up is string of plants in general. This is string of hearts, but you can get string of arrows, string of bananas, string of dolphins. There's a few different ones. This is the variegated string of hearts. And I would say this one with the variegated one, you do want to be thinking about giving it as more higher light, but there is a non-variegated version that will tolerate a little bit lower light. The main issues people have with these is, again, overwatering. So again, get your little heart, feel it. If it feels firm, like this one does, because again, I watered it yesterday, then don't water it. If it starts to feel more soft, then give it a good water, let it completely drain through, and then put it back in its spot. Do not let these plants sit in water. They absolutely hate that. So that was what I would say for these. The other issues people have with them is that they start to get bald on the top. I'm obviously trailing this one round a trellis. That's just because I am an extra plant parent, but you absolutely don't need to do this. You can just have it hanging. They are really easy to propagate. You can literally just take a stem cutting, make sure that you've got a node. So this is the section here. I actually do have a whole dedicated care video just showing you how you can look after this plant and also how to propagate it. So I will pop that down in the description below. But yeah, make sure that you can basically, if it starts to look bald on top, you can chop it, propagate it, insert the new cuttings back into the top of the pot, and that will keep it looking lush and full. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss the plants that are for you high maintenance plant parents. You are people that are got more time on your hands, you want to dedicate hours of your week to plant care, you're looking to really elevate your plant care experience to that next level, to experiment with different things like how to grow plants in different ways, different growing mediums, and more tricky plants that require more specialist care. Now this is the section for you. Now, please bear in mind that all the plants I've discussed previously, you can also enjoy as a high maintenance plant parent. I like to have easy care plants as well as my more challenging plants, just to make my life a little bit easier. So if I am struggling with one of my plants, at least I know that some of my easier plants are living their best life and being kind to me. So everything that's been discussed can obviously still apply to you, but here are some extras. So the first thing you can do is take some of those plants that we were talking about earlier and grow them in a different way. This is the Epipremnum mandula or mandula pothos. And rather than having this one trailing, I'm actually growing it up a moss pole. It's looking a bit mad at the moment because I'm transitioning it from this sort of wire mesh onto this plastic back moss pole. So it's looking a little bit crazy, but in essence, what will happen is that you have sphagnum moss in a pole, you keep this moss damp, and then the aerial roots grow into the pole, and you're basically providing extra nutrients through the moss, and the plant grips into the moss and it puts more aerial roots out into the moss, and that helps the plant grow, mature, and get bigger leaves. So if you're looking to really elevate your plant care, elevate your plants, then you can take plants that you already have and grow them in a slightly different way to get a different vision, basically. So yeah, I have this one, which is my mandula growing up a pole. I also have my neon pothos growing up a pole, which I'll just quickly show you. So this here is my neon pothos growing up a pole. And if I can show you the difference, this is the trailing neon. Obviously much smaller leaves, still lovely, that wonderful pop of neon green, that lovely trailing leaves going down. But you put it on a moss pole and give it some time, some fertilizer, and quite a lot of time and energy, and you will start to grow big leaves like this. So yeah, this is definitely next level plant care, because this moss pole requires you to be keeping it moist all the time, so it's much more frequent watering than if you've just got the trailing version. So yeah, if you're looking to also like spend more money, because of course you're going to have to buy moss poles, or you're going to have to make the moss poles, you're going to have to buy the sphagnum moss, you do need to be fertilizing your plants if you really want to get the best out of them. That's extra cost as well. So yeah, if you're looking to take your plants to the next level, then there is a more time input and financial input as well. Up next for you higher maintenance plant people is Anthurium. Now, actually, I don't have a massive Anthurium collection, and there are some that are really, really difficult. I actually only have more of the kind of, well, that's not true. I have some slightly trickier ones, but if you're looking for a best start into the Anthurium world, then go with either the Anthurium clarinervium or the Anthurium crystallinum. Now, there is some debate about what this plant is. It was sold to me as a crystallinum hybrid, so that's what I've always called it, but lots of people have been telling me it's a different type of clarinervium, so we'll see. But this is one of the flowers it produces at inflow. I actually have pollinated it, so I'm not sure if it's taken or not yet. It's too early to say. But yes, with these, I would say it's slightly more higher maintenance. You can absolutely grow these in soil, but I get the best out of these by growing them in semi-hydroponics. That's basically like little rocks. It's also sometimes called pon, and it's a way of growing whereby you don't use any soil at all. You use these rocks and you provide a reservoir of water, and the rocks absorb the moisture from the water, and that is how they grow. It's really fantastic for plants like Anthurium and Monstera that have really chunky root systems. Alocasia also do really well in semi-hydro. So you absolutely can grow your Anthurium in soil. It's just, for me, what has been the best and making sure that I've got all these wonderful, lovely leaves is growing them in semi-hydroponics. So this is what I call my Anthurium crystallinum hybrid, and I'll show you my clarinervium just quickly. And this one here is my pure clarinervium. So whether or not they're both clarinervium, I'm not really sure, but this is the one I bought as a clarinervium. And yeah, I grow them both exactly the same way, which is in semi-hydroponics, and I put some moss on the tops, sphagnum moss, just to keep the roots happy, the aerial roots that come through. So yeah, if you want to go next step up, I would say Anthurium, but start with easier ones like the Clarinervium. Next up is Alocasia. Again, Alocasia can be one of those genus that can be a little bit tricky, but if you're starting out with Alocasia, I would recommend you start out with this one. This is the Alocasia Sabrina. This is the first Alocasia I ever bought, and it's my easiest Alocasia by far. That's not to say things can't go wrong with it, they can, but it's definitely easier than some of my other ones. Again, I do grow all of my Alocasias in semi-hydroponics. You don't have to, you can grow them in soil, but for me, that's what makes them happy and it stops them cycling. That's that behavior that Alocasias sometimes do, where they put out a new leaf and then kill off an old leaf. And I find that growing them in semi-hydroponics means that you get to keep more leaves on the plant. The problem with Alocasias is they are extremely prone to spider mites. So again, you are having to clean your leaves regularly, shower your plants regularly, otherwise those spider mites are going to take hold and potentially destroy the plant. So you do need to keep an eye on these guys and pests, and that's why I have them in my higher plant need section of this video, because yeah, their spider mites are real, and I'm currently not on this plant, but I do have spider mites on some of my other Alocasias at the moment, and they are the bane of my existence. So yeah. Up next is Alocasia. Here is another Alocasia in my collection. This is the Alocasia Sarium. This guy is, buy with warning. This guy is the magnet of magnets of spider mites. So yeah, definitely just think about whether or not you want to spend a lot of your time cleaning your leaves before you invest in a huge amount of Alocasia. But obviously they are stunning and worth it if you want to put the effort in. Up next is the Oxalis triangularis. And the reason I have this in the kind of high maintenance bracket is because they do require a huge amount of light. I wouldn't say blast it with right up in a south-facing window, but a good sort of maybe a few feet back from a south-facing window. They do like some morning or afternoon direct sun, and they need more light than people think they need because they've got very thin leaves. People think they're very, very delicate, but these can actually grow outside here in the summer months. They would die off in the winter months, they would go dormant, but they are hardier than they look. But yeah, basically you need to get the watering levels right. That can be quite difficult because they're thirsty, but they also don't like to be sat in water. So you've got to get the watering right for them. My daughter's actually just put a sticker on one of the leaves, so it says good job on it. So I said to her, please don't do that because it's going to rip the leaves. She said, no, it won't. And it has ripped the leaves, so I have left it on there for now. But there you go. That's the joy of plants and kids. Sometimes you're going to have some ripped leaves, and that's what's going to happen. If you want to have your heart broken a little bit and you definitely want to try your best and spend a lot of time with your plants, then and only then would I recommend that you buy Calathea or Maranta. This is my Calathea orbifolia. I'll show you my Maranta in a minute. It can be very difficult to get the watering levels right with these. They do have thin root systems and therefore they do require more frequent watering. But again, it's very easy to overwater them, and once the roots start to go downhill, it's very difficult to pull them back from that. They're again pest prone as well. This plant always has either thrips or spider mites. No matter what I do, I've cut it back. I've literally cut it back very recently, a few months ago, but I've cut this plant back 1,000 times and it's grown back, but the spider mites or the thrips always find it. And yeah, I just don't recommend that you buy these unless you want to spend a lot of time looking after it, quite frankly. They are beautiful and I understand why people love them, but they are not easy at all. And here's my Maranta. It is almost impossible for me to grow this without having some crisping on the leaves. If you know how to do it, please let me know in the comments. But for me, the humidity just isn't high enough in this house. And even actually when you see Maranta in like places like Kew Gardens, they always have a few crispy tips on the leaves. So obviously they come in, the new growth comes in really beautiful like this. And you're thinking, oh, maybe I won't get crispy tips this time, but they always eventually set in. So yeah, it's just one of those things, but they are beautiful plants, but definitely not the easiest. Once you get your grips around growing the Monstera deliciosa, you may want to think about going down one of the variegated Monstera roots. This is the Monstera albo. I also have a Thai constellation as well. And they are, actually this grows much faster than my big Monstera deliciosa. This puts out leaves more readily than my green one. I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but that's just the case for me. I do provide extra light for this plant, so it does have its own grow light. I'll show you the setup that I have for this. But yeah, once you've got your head around growing the Monstera deliciosa and you want to have a little bit of, fork out a little bit of money because these come down a huge amount in price, but they are still more on the pricey side, then you can grow a variegated Monstera. The care is very much the same. I do have this one on a moss pole. You don't have to have it on a moss pole, but it just, I like the look of it, and I'm hoping that the leaves will start to maybe size up a little bit more. I'm not sure if they will, but all the roots growing here in the back of the moss just keeps the plant super, super happy. And yeah, maybe consider getting yourself a variegated Monstera. I would just make sure that you are willing to commit to it though, because you don't want to pay for it and then not have the time to look after it, because then you will have lost out on a few bob. So yeah. Next up is variegated philodendrons, and I did mention that philodendron in general are quite easygoing, and I would put them in that medium bracket. But velvet philodendrons, I would say, are, oh, my dog's barking. It's just the postman. Velvet philodendrons, I would say, are a little bit more high maintenance, and for me, it's because they are a little bit more pest prone. I don't know if that's just my experience. And they do tend to require a little bit more specialist care if you want to get the best out of them. This is the Philodendron gloriosum. It's a crawler, so it crawls along the plant, and therefore I'm having to get the best out of it and to get some nice big leaves like this, I'm having to provide it with this rectangular planter to allow it to crawl along. I also grow this plant in semi-hydroponics because for me that's how I get the best out of it. But you can also get climbing philodendrons. If you wanted to go check out some beautiful climbing velvet philodendron, Sydney Plant Guy is the go-to person for that, and all of his tips on growing up moss poles are fantastic. And yeah, again, if you want those really big leaves, you are going to need to put in some extra time and effort to grow them up a moss pole, or allow for your plant to crawl to get those big mature leaves that you're looking for. Okay, that is it for this video for all the different options. I did say I was going to talk about grow lights, so I will just quickly talk about that in a minute. But in case you don't want to stay and talk about grow lights, I just want to say I hope you found that there are some options there for you, no matter whether you're wanting to just add a few plants to your space and not really think too much about it, or whether you're just looking to really up your game in terms of your plant care. And I hope now that you can see which plants sit within which category in terms of thinking about which plants to add to your space. But always bear in mind, how much time do I want to dedicate to this hobby, and how much light do I have? And that will really make a massive impact on the plants that you choose, and hopefully allow you to keep them looking happy and healthy and not losing plants in your home, because there's nothing more depressing than when your houseplants die. So yeah, I hope you found this video useful, and then stay quickly and we'll do some quick chat about grow lights. Okay, let's talk quickly about grow lights. So I want you to know that if you don't have a lot of natural light in your home, all is not lost. You can supplement with grow lights. And as I say, grow lights have come a huge way in the last 5 years. And they're not just, I think when I first got into plants, they were all like pink and strip lights and not very attractive at all. And like I say, they've come such a long way. You can also invest in, you can choose what kind of investment level you want to do. There are grow lights that are really cheap. Obviously, the more you kind of pay towards it, you are going to get a better quality light, but you know, you can absolutely get away with those sort of cheaper ones on the market as well. Okay, so the first grow light that I ever got, and I've got quite a few of these and I absolutely love them. This is the Pianta grow bulb from Grow Gang. And these are fantastic. They come in black and white, but white is more my aesthetic in terms of like the shelves I've got are white and that sort of thing. So these can actually just screw into, I've got one up here. Grow Gang also sell these like pendant attachments with an on-off switch here. So you can have it like that. I have this one growing over my Monstera elbow. I can also screw these into, like I've got IKEA lamps that I use, as long as the lamp is okay with the wattage of the bulb, then you're good to go. But Grow Gang also sell light attachments as well. I do have one of their light attachments back there, one of their lamps, and I'll show you that a little bit of a close-up. But yeah, these bulbs are absolutely fantastic, and you can either have them, as I have, focusing on one particular plant, or you can have them potentially on a lamp shining onto an area. Just make sure that you're not having your plants touching the bulbs, because they will burn the plant leaves. So you want to be at least a foot away, to up to maybe 3 feet away, not much further, because then obviously you're not going to get the benefits of the light. You can always buy a light meter. I'll pop a link down in the description below for the light meter I use. I really find that useful, especially at the beginning of my houseplant journey, when I really wasn't sure what bright light was, medium light, lower light. I didn't really know what was going on, and getting a foot candle reading is really useful. And I'll also link a blog post to the Houseplant Journal where he discusses what foot candles each plant need in order to get the best out of that plant. But really what you're looking for is at least 100 foot candles for that plant to actively grow, but really ideally more in that 300 to 500 foot candle bracket for most plants, and then 500 up to get the most out of your plants that can tolerate higher light. But you really don't want anything under 100 foot candles, because those plants are really going to not do anything. They're not going to be receiving enough light to photosynthesize, really. So yeah. But Pianta bulb is absolutely brilliant. I'll also insert a picture of the Claria. That's a pendant light, and I used to have that in my old house going over my big Monstera that's over there in the corner. It's now in my back room, sorry, my front room, which gets is a north-facing room, so it doesn't get as much light as I would like. So supplementing with grow lights isn't just something you have to do if you live, say, in a basement flat. It may well be that you have lower light rooms in your house, such as north-facing rooms, that you want to just increase the light levels, especially as we're going into autumn and winter, and the number of hours of daylight obviously decreases, as does the intensity of the light that we receive. I also have this light here. This is a Mother Life Spectrum grow light. It did actually come on a stand and was a vertical grow light, which is fantastic for things like moss poles. But unfortunately for me, because I've got young children and dog and a busy household, I didn't really want a standing grow light with the risk of it potentially falling over. But if you don't have a crazy household, then having a standing grow light is fantastic, especially for presenting to quite a few plants, because they have a sort of a curved edge on them, so they have light going out on a few different sides. I know that Sydney Plant Guy uses these these grow lights for his moss poles, and so they are really fantastic for that. But for me, I decided that I wanted to maximize the amount of light that was getting under this shelf here. So I've just used a couple of brackets that I got from the hardware store, and I've got it going over here, and then I've got it focusing down on my moss poles here. I've just moved these moss poles out because I've been discussing them today, but normally they sit right back against this wall, and they are getting the light from above from this Mother Full Spectrum Life Spectrum grow light. And that means that they're getting light from above, light mimicking the sun, and they're growing up towards the sun. So I will link this Mother grow light as well, because it's also really fantastic. And the last grow light that I'm going to talk about in this video, although I do have a few others, I'm just going to talk about this, the last one I'm going to talk about today, is this Sansevieria clip-on grow light. This one is really useful if you have a shelf with plants on it, because obviously it's got this flexible arm here, and you can direct it onto a particular plant. You can also use that to hook it onto the pot of a plant and direct it directly at that plant. But it's another tip for the string of hearts, that if you make sure that you've got light on top of the plant, then you're going to make sure that you've still got lots of leaves growing on the top here, and you're going to avoid that balding. That's what I use it for here, to provide little bit of extra light for my variegated string of hearts because this is a north facing room. But yeah, I'll pop this one down in the description as well. Like I say, if you have low light areas of your home or you have a house that has minimal natural light, then grow lights are a great alternative and can mean that you can still have lovely greenery in your home. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful, and please do remember to like and subscribe if you have found it useful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.